What happens when one of the most talked about women in the world walks onto a daytime talk show stage and completely loses control in front of millions of viewers? In just 33 seconds, a single comment would ignite a firestorm that would bring an entire interview crashing down in spectacular fashion. The View had seen its fair share of heated debates over the years. The iconic roundtable had hosted presidents, celebrities, and controversial figures from every corner of public life. But nobody could have predicted what was about to unfold when Meghan Markle took her seat under those bright studio lights. Joy Behar had been doing this for decades. She knew how to handle difficult guests, how to ask the tough questions, and how to keep a show moving even when tensions ran high. She was a professional through and through, beloved by millions for her quick wit and no-nonsense approach. Today, she would need every ounce of that experience. The interview started pleasantly enough. Meghan swept onto the stage in an elegant cream-colored pantsuit, waving to the studio audience as they erupted in applause. She settled into the chair across from the panel, smoothing her outfit and flashing that practiced smile the world had seen 1,000 times before. Joy started with the softballs, the easy questions designed to warm up a guest and make them comfortable. "Thank you so much for being here today. We're thrilled to have you." Meghan nodded graciously. "Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here." "Let's talk about your new ventures," Joy continued, leaning forward with genuine interest. "You've been working on several projects since stepping back from royal duties. Can you tell us what you're most excited about?" And that's when the first crack appeared. Meghan's smile tightened just slightly. "Well, Joy, I think it's important to clarify that we didn't step back. We were forced out by a system that was never designed to accept someone like me." The studio audience went quiet. Joy, ever the professional, nodded thoughtfully. "I understand there were difficulties, but you did make the choice to leave, didn't you? You announced it publicly." "A choice?" Meghan's voice rose just a notch. "When you're being destroyed by the tabloids daily, when your own family won't protect you, when you fear for your safety, is that really a choice?" Joy maintained her composure, her voice steady and measured. "Those are serious allegations, and I think a lot of people sympathize with the challenges you faced. But there are also questions about some of the decisions you made afterward. The interviews, the Netflix series, the book. Some people feel that—" "Some people?" Meghan interrupted, her eyes flashing. "You mean the same people who never wanted me there in the first place? The same people who spent years tearing me apart for everything, from how I held my baby to what color dress I wore?" Joy tried to regain control of the conversation. "I'm not attacking you, Meghan. I'm simply trying to have an honest conversation about—" "Honest?" Meghan let out a sharp laugh. "You want honest? Let's be honest then. You sit here in your comfortable chair, in your successful career, and you judge me for trying to tell my truth. You have no idea what it's like to be silenced, to be controlled, to have every single thing you do twisted into something ugly." The other hosts exchanged worried glances. This was escalating faster than anyone had anticipated. Joy, to her credit, remained calm. She had dealt with plenty of difficult interviews before, and she wasn't about to let this one spiral completely out of control. "I'm not judging you," Joy said carefully, her voice still level and professional. "But I am asking questions that I think our audience wants answers to. That's my job. You came on this show knowing we would have a real conversation." Meghan's jaw tightened. "A real conversation? This is an ambush. You invited me here under the pretense of discussing my charity work and my projects. And instead, you're interrogating me about my personal life and my decisions." Joy shook her head. "That's not fair, and you know it. We sent your team a list of topics we'd be covering. Nothing I've asked has been out of bounds." "Everything you've asked has been designed to make me look bad," Meghan shot back. "You're no different from all the rest of them. You act like you're on the side of women, like you're some champion of the truth, but really, you're just another person, trying to tear down a woman who dared to stand up for herself." The audience was completely silent now. You could have heard a pin drop in that studio. Joy's co-hosts sat frozen, unsure whether to intervene or let Joy handle it. Joy took a deep breath. Meghan, I have spent my entire career fighting for women's rights, for equality, for justice. I don't appreciate being characterized that way simply because I'm asking you substantive questions. Substantive? Meghan's voice dripped with contempt. You call asking me to defend my right to speak out substantive? You call questioning whether I should have told my story substantive? That's not journalism, Joy. That's bullying. Joy's expression hardened just slightly. She had been patient. She had been professional. But there was a line. I am not bullying you. I am doing my job as a journalist and as a host. If you can't handle being asked direct questions about your very public choices, then perhaps you shouldn't have agreed to come on a talk show. That was it. That was the moment everything exploded. Meghan stood up abruptly, her microphone nearly falling from her lapel. How dare you, she hissed. How dare you sit there and tell me what I should or shouldn't do? You have no idea what I've been through. None of you do. Joy remained seated, her voice steady despite the chaos erupting in front of her. Please sit down, Meghan. Let's talk about this like adults. Like adults? Meghan's voice was shaking now. Whether from anger or something else, it was hard to tell. You want to talk like adults? Then maybe you should try treating me with some basic respect instead of acting like I'm some spoiled brat who doesn't know what's good for her. I have been nothing but respectful, Joy countered, her own frustration finally starting to show. But respect goes both ways. You came onto this show. You agreed to this interview. And now you're acting like a victim because I'm not just lobbing you softball questions and letting you control the narrative. Meghan's face flushed red. Control the narrative? That's rich coming from someone who's built a career on controlling narratives. You sit here every day and you tell people what to think, how to feel, what's right, and what's wrong. And God forbid anyone disagrees with you. That's what we do here, Joy said firmly. We have opinions. We debate. We discuss. If you wanted a puff piece interview where nobody challenges you, you should have gone somewhere else. Maybe I should have, Meghan spat. Maybe I should have known better than to expect anything resembling fairness from someone like you. Joy's eyebrows shot up. Someone like me? What exactly does that mean? Meghan waved her hand dismissively. Someone who's so desperate to stay relevant that they'll say anything, attack anyone, just to get ratings and attention. You're past your prime, Joy, and everybody knows it. The gasp from the audience was audible. Even Meghan's own publicist, watching from backstage, put her head in her hands. This had gone too far. Way too far. Joy's face was a mask of controlled anger now. Her voice, when she spoke, was ice cold. I'm going to pretend you didn't just say that. I'm going to give you one chance to sit down, collect yourself, and we can try to finish this interview with some dignity. But Meghan was beyond reason now. Dignity? You want to lecture me about dignity? You, who spent the last 20 minutes trying to humiliate me on national television? You, who clearly had an agenda from the moment I walked out here. The only agenda I had was to have an honest conversation, Joy said, her patience finally wearing thin. But clearly you're not capable of that. You can't handle anyone asking you real questions or pushing back on your version of events. My version of events? Meghan's voice went up another octave. Are you calling me a liar now? Is that what this is? Because if you are, you better be ready to back that up. Joy stood up now too, facing Meghan directly. I'm not calling you a liar, but I am saying that there are always multiple sides to every story, and you seem to only want people to hear yours. That's not how the real world works. The real world? Meghan laughed bitterly. Don't talk to me about the real world. You live in a bubble, Joy. You all do. You sit here in your studio with your audience that applauds everything you say, and you think you have all the answers, but you don't know anything about what it's really like out there. Then enlighten us, Joy challenged. Sit down and enlighten us. Have a real conversation instead of this tantrum you're throwing. That word, tantrum, was the final straw. Meghan's eyes went wide with fury. A tantrum? You think this is a tantrum? I'm standing up for myself against someone who clearly has no intention of treating me fairly. But of course, when a woman stands up for herself, when she refuses to just sit there and take it, she's throwing a tantrum. This has nothing to do with you being a woman, Joy said sharply. This has to do with you being unable to have a grown-up conversation without attacking everyone who doesn't immediately agree with you. Meghan ripped the microphone off her jacket. I'm done. I'm not going to sit here and be insulted by someone who wouldn't know integrity if it hit her in the face. Joy's co-hosts finally tried to intervene. One of them stood up, reaching out toward Meghan. Let's all just take a breath. But Meghan wasn't having it. No, I'm leaving. This was a mistake from the beginning. Joy, still standing, crossed her arms. You're absolutely right about one thing. This was a mistake. We should have known better than to expect you to handle anything more challenging than a pre-approved puff piece. Meghan whirled around, pointing a finger at Joy. You are a bitter, miserable woman who tears other women down to make herself feel important. That's all you are. That's all you've ever been. The studio fell into complete shocked silence. Even the crew members had stopped what they were doing, frozen in disbelief at what they were witnessing. Joy's voice, when she spoke, was quiet but deadly serious. Get out. Meghan blinked. What? You heard me, Joy said, her voice growing stronger. Get out of this studio. This interview is over. You can hurl insults and play the victim somewhere else, but you're not doing it here. Not on my show. You can't kick me out, Meghan said, but there was uncertainty in her voice now. I absolutely can, Joy replied. This is my show. I've been doing this for longer than you've been famous. And I'm telling you to leave. Now. For a moment, it looked like Meghan might argue further. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her publicist had rushed onto the stage now, grabbing her arm and whispering urgently in her ear. Meghan shook her off. I'm going. Trust me, I wouldn't stay here another second if you paid me. Good, Joy said simply. The door's that way. Meghan turned on her heel, her expensive shoes clicking loudly on the studio floor as she stormed off the stage. Her publicist scrambled after her, trying to do damage control even as they disappeared behind the curtain. The audience sat in stunned silence. Joy's co-hosts looked at each other, then at Joy, unsure what to say or do. Joy slowly sat back down, smoothing her hair and taking a sip of water. Her hands were steady, her face composed, but you could see the anger still simmering behind her eyes. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only a few seconds, Joy looked directly into the camera. Well, she said, her voice dry, that went well. A nervous laugh rippled through the audience, releasing some of the tension that had built up in the room. Joy continued, her professional mask firmly back in place. I want to apologize to our viewers for what you just witnessed. We invited Meghan here for what we hoped would be a thoughtful, honest conversation. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. One of her co-hosts reached over and squeezed her hand. You handled that with incredible grace, Joy. Joy shook her head. I don't feel very graceful right now. I feel disappointed. I genuinely wanted to hear her perspective, to understand her side of things. But the moment I asked anything more substantial than what her favorite color is, she couldn't handle it. Another co-host chimed in. You were more than fair. You gave her every opportunity to explain herself, to share her story. She was the one who turned it into an attack. Joy sighed. Look, I understand that she's been through a lot. I do. and I have sympathy for anyone who's been targeted by tabloids and dealt with that level of scrutiny. But that doesn't give you a free pass to come on a talk show and expect that nobody will ask you challenging questions. That's not how this works. The audience applauded, clearly on Joy's side after what they'd just witnessed. I've interviewed presidents, world leaders, celebrities of every kind, Joy went on. And yes, sometimes those interviews get heated. Sometimes there's disagreement. But I've never had someone come on this show and react the way she just did, simply because I asked her to explain her choices. She called you bitter and miserable, one of the co-hosts said, still looking shocked. That was completely out of line. Joy waved it off, though you could tell the words had stung. She was angry and lashing out. I've been called worse. But what bothers me is that she came here with an agenda. She wanted to be praised and supported, not questioned. And when that didn't happen, she couldn't handle it. Do you think she planned to storm off? Another co-host asked. Joy considered this. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe she genuinely thought we would just let her say whatever she wanted without any pushback. Either way, it shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what journalism is supposed to be. The conversation continued, with Joy's co-hosts rallying around her and the audience showing their support. But through it all, you could see that Joy was bothered by what had happened, not because of the personal attacks, but because an opportunity for real dialogue had been wasted. I want to be clear about something, Joy said, looking directly into the camera again. I don't enjoy conflict for the sake of conflict. I don't try to make my guests uncomfortable or upset them. But I do believe in asking real questions and having substantive conversations. If that makes me a bad person in some people's eyes, then so be it. Another round of applause from the audience. We're going to take a quick break, Joy announced. When we come back, we'll move on to our next segment and try to salvage what's left of this show. As they cut to commercial, you could see Joy letting out a long breath, her shoulders sagging just slightly. Her co-hosts huddled around her, offering words of support and encouragement. She smiled and thanked them, but you could tell she was still processing what had just happened. Behind the scenes, the production team was in chaos. Producers were on their phones, the director was barking orders, and everyone was trying to figure out what to do next. This wasn't just a difficult interview. This was a full-blown incident that would be talked about for days, maybe weeks. But through it all, Joy remained professional. When they came back from commercial, she was composed and ready to move forward. She didn't dwell on what had happened. She didn't continue to talk about Meghan or the altercation. She simply moved on to the next topic, because that's what professionals do. The rest of the show went smoothly, but there was an energy in the studio that hadn't been there before. The audience was buzzing. The co-hosts kept exchanging glances, and you could tell everyone was still thinking about those explosive few minutes. When it came time to close out the show, Joy addressed it one final time. Before we go, I want to say one more thing about what happened earlier. We come to you every day, trying to have honest, open conversations about the issues and people that matter. Sometimes those conversations are easy, and sometimes they're hard. Today was hard, but I don't regret asking the questions I asked. And I don't regret standing my ground when I was attacked for doing my job. The audience gave her a standing ovation. Joy smiled, genuine warmth in her expression, for the first time since the incident. Thank you. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you tomorrow. As the credits rolled and the audience filed out, Joy sat back in her chair, finally allowing herself to fully process what had happened. Her co-hosts stayed with her, offering hugs and words of encouragement. "You did the right thing," one of them said. "You gave her every chance, and she blew it." Joy nodded. "I just hope people see that. I hope they understand that I wasn't trying to attack her or make her look bad. I was just doing my job." "They will," another assured her. "Anyone who watches that footage will see exactly what happened. You were professional and fair, and she was out of control." In the hallway outside the studio, you could still hear the commotion of Meghan's hasty exit. Her team was scrambling. Her publicist was on the phone, frantically trying to spin the situation, and security was escorting them out of the building. Back on the stage, Joy gathered her notes and prepared to leave. She'd been doing this job for decades, and she'd weathered plenty of storms. But this one felt different. This one felt personal, in a way that most difficult interviews didn't. Still, she held her head high as she walked off the stage. She had done nothing wrong. She had asked fair questions. She had given her guest multiple opportunities to have a real conversation, and she had maintained her professionalism, even when she was being personally attacked. That's all anyone could ask for. That's all she could ask of herself. The studio lights dimmed. The crew packed up their equipment, and another day at the View came to an end. But this was a day that nobody there would forget anytime soon. It was a day when a routine interview turned into something much bigger, something that would be analyzed and discussed and debated for a long time to come. And through it all, Joy Behar had shown why she was a professional, why she had lasted so long in this business, and why she commanded the respect that she did. She had been tested, she had been attacked, and she had stood her ground without stooping to the level of the person attacking her. That's not just good television. That's character. That's integrity. That's what separates the professionals from everyone else. As the last person left the studio and the doors locked behind them, the stage sat empty and quiet. But the echoes of what had happened there would reverberate far beyond those walls, sparking conversations about respect, about journalism, about what it means to have a platform and how to use it responsibly. Joy had done her part. She had asked the questions that needed to be asked. She had stood up for herself when she was attacked. And she had shown millions of viewers what it looks like to maintain your dignity and professionalism, even in the face of outrageous behavior. Tomorrow, there would be another show, other guests, other conversations. But today, Joy Behar had reminded everyone why she was still here, still relevant, still one of the best in the business. Not because she avoided conflict or made things easy for her guests, but because she had the courage to ask hard questions and the strength to stand behind them when challenged. That studio had seen a lot over the years, but what happened between Joy Behar and Meghan Markle would go down as one of the most memorable, most dramatic, and most talked about moments in the show's history. Not because it was planned or staged, but because it was real, raw, and completely unexpected. And in the end, when the dust settled and people looked back on what happened, they would see a host who kept her composure, maintained her professionalism, and refused to back down from doing her job, even when it meant making a difficult decision to end the interview and ask a guest to leave. That takes guts. That takes conviction. And that's exactly what Joy Behar showed that day.